Welcome to the Armed and Ready podcast. I am your host, Jason Wood, the VA loan guy. We have a really exciting episode lined up for you, so come check it out. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Armed and Ready podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wood, the VA loan guy. And today we have an awesome guest with us. Today we have the VA loan lady, Ariel Best. So I'm super pumped to have you on the show, Ariel. And, the moniker names aside, I'm excited to chat with you about military and VA loans and kind of all the stuff that you're doing. And I know we kind of cross paths in the social media sandbox. So I'm really happy to have you on the show. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. This is a pretty sweet setup you guys have. A lot better than my TikToks where I'm just like, let's do a TikTok. It's middle of the day and somebody asked a question. So,
well, yeah, I mean, that's a good lead in. Like your TikToks are off the hook. Like, how are you gaining so much traction and followers and all that stuff? What do you do that's special that you could share with our audience?
Yeah, it was honestly by accident when the first one went viral. I woke up the next morning and I was just like, oh God. But mostly it's answering questions. Are you wanting there's a two-part to that. Do you want the actual algorithms or do you want to know what is the best content to put out there as far as growing business and being helpful?
Both.
Okay, so when I first posted the first TikTok, I made the big mistake of putting my cell phone number on the actual video and my phone rang 767 times the next day.
Whoa.
And I wanted to cry because I didn't know what to do. But then I kind of started learning how TikToks work. So if you're trying to focus on people seeing your videos and growing to an audience to be helpful, then the idea is to post shorter videos because TikTok is a platform, statistically speaking, that has an average age range of 19 to 35, most of whom are first-time homebuyers who know how to use technology. But when you think about the average kind of millennial, we have short attention spans. So it's doing shorter videos that have the content shortened down, essentially kind of breaking it down Barney style. You need the information without any of the fluff. So that's what I do is I post the information without the fluff, really popular music that's fun to listen to. Here's the information you need. Let me know if you have questions. And that normally leads to what happens when a video goes viral, which is when you post something that's super useful, but it does lead to follow-up questions. People post those questions, and that means they're spending more time looking at the video, which just makes the video go nuts. So that, and then again, following up and finding out the answers. It's kind of been by accident. Full disclosure, I know that's not what most people want to hear, but that is how it happened. Is by accident. I kind of just started answering questions repeatedly and being helpful, and that's how that happened. Now that's I have 40,000 some odd followers.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, do you do the same? Do you post the same stuff on like your Instagram?
Not really. So for me, Instagram is kind of like, I got this analogy from another loan officer. Instagram for me is like Mexico. I'm going on vacation when I'm on Instagram. I post personal content on there. Sometimes if the videos are important enough that the content has to go over there, but I don't normally cross post because I don't have a team big enough to cross post at the moment, where if I got people reaching out to me from both platforms, we're busy, we're good, business is great, but it's too much and I don't want to give bad service to anybody. So I keep Instagram separate.
That's good. So tell us a little bit about, kind of your connection in this VA loan military world. Tell us about your background and how you got into serving the military on the loan side.
So originally, first VA loan I did, I messed it up royally. It was a nightmare, complete cluster of a file. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And I listened to my processor and the underwriter on what they said we had to have in a file. And it took us 4 months to close it, and it closed, but I felt like it was way more difficult than it needed to be. And I wound up sitting down with my husband at the time, and I was just like, this was so hard. I don't know how you used your VA loan. And he goes, yeah, it was really difficult. And I'm like, it shouldn't be this hard. And I connected with another loan officer who said, you should join MMBC. And at the time I had no idea what that was. And so I started looking at it and I'm like, that seems like that would be super useful. And then I sat down and I read chapter 4 of the handbook. And it was right after they had just recently redid the entire chapter 4 and chapter 12 and chapter 10. And I went, I don't think this is nearly as hard as they're telling me it is. And then I realized it wasn't. And then I was like, okay, this is not anywhere near as hard as what it should be. We can make this easier. And then I started posting content videos. And it kind of started on Facebook, where I would post these really terrible, cringy videos that I had recorded that were very badly edited and not synced up and not edited properly. And then the pandemic hit. And if you know me, I'm not a big fan of marketing necessarily to realtors. And the reason is because I started teaching the classes, started telling realtors. The problem was that I would get the deals, I would get these veterans deals after they were under contract and close to closing and they were about to fall apart. That is a process that sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. There's nothing worse for anybody when they're buying a house than to have their loan denied by one lender, have somebody else say, hey, I can do it, but still not know if they're going to be homeless or not. That process sucks. And that's what a lot of my business had been up into moving to TikTok, because realtors were still letting them go to banks that didn't know how to do them properly. And then I would have to rescue them. And it was stressful. My entire pipeline was rescues at one point, just rescue deals.
Ugh.
And I was thinking right before the pandemic, there has to be a better way for this to happen. And then the pandemic hit, all of the face-to-face went away. So I went, okay, I'm going to post it on TikTok, because at the very least, I'm having a larger reach. More people are going to see it. And then again, it just kind of exploded by accident one day. And that's how that happened, is long story short.
Nice. And for clarity for our audience, the MMBC and the handbook that she's referring to. So MMBC is a group, it stands for Military Mortgage Boot Camp. So it's a group of loan officers across the country that have taken a deep dive into the VA loan, to the point where we've become certified to teach about the VA loan in our respective states to the real estate agents. And the real estate agents can take our class and get credits towards their license renewal every year. So that's what she's referring to, MMBC. It's a really great group, right? We have this like Facebook Messenger chat, and you always have that weird, quirky scenario. Then you're like, gosh, can I do this? Or what's the rule around this? And lo and behold, somebody knows, right? So it's an awesome resource. And the other thing too is, we share referrals with folks, because not all of us are licensed in every single state. So, it's a really good source. But that's what the MMBC is. And the handbook she's referring to is the VA Lender's Handbook, right? Which anybody can go on Google and read it. But that's essentially the rule book that all these mortgage companies have to play by at a bare minimum for a VA loan to be guaranteed by the VA. So just a little clarity on that. So what's your military affiliation?
Oh, none. I have absolutely none. Aside from the fact that I was married to a veteran, and then my grandfather and grandmother raised me. My grandfather was a Marine veteran of 30 years. He was stationed for several years in Antarctica. He was first landing on Antarctica successfully, and he brought home a pet penguin. So lived with them for a very, very long time. I was with them almost my entire life. So very used to how to interact with military folks is really the extent of it. But really that first deal that I messed up was kind of like, this has got to be easier. And then I realized how many people were getting told no, or no, that's not the process, or, kind of not getting educated on their benefits. And then as I've gotten more and more into specializing in VA loans, I realized it's not just a loan program. I now teach a TAPS class, excuse my French. We teach the TAPS class. It's worth a damn. So we have me for home loan benefits, and then state specific benefits, which I will go over the home loan process. And then I go through, here's where to find your state specific benefits. Here's the best way to find a VSO that's going to advocate for you. Here is the ways you apply for your tax exemptions for your property. Here is your exemptions based on your rating for any other things that you can get for the state, because each state, and I don't think a lot of people know this, there is this massive list with all of the benefits. Like North Carolina has just the laundry list of benefits that disabled veterans get, or even non-disabled veterans. How to transfer your GI Bill benefits to your children. I go through all that process. We have a VSO officer that's part of the class. She goes through how to file a disability claim, what's on the paperwork, how to read your disability claim. We have a ratings officer that works for the VA, like the actual decision maker, that goes through what they look for in a packet, how to get in touch with civilian doctors. Like we do the TAPS class, it's worth a damn, because everything I've heard from every service member I've spoken to says, when they get out, or when they're ready to get out, you have 12 months to do your TAPS class, and you either go in person, or you have to sit online and sit through 273 hours of recorded content. No one's doing that. No one is doing that. And if anybody does, props to them. But that's a lot of content to cram into somebody's head that is exhausted and just trying to get everything signed and done to make sure they get their DD 214.
Yeah.
So we teach that so we can, again, condense down the important information that they definitely need. I mean, they need all of it, but that's a lot of information to dump on one person. So we teach that class. I'm friends with a lot of different VSOs now. So I've really gotten into making sure that they know where to go to get all of their benefit information. And I honestly don't care if they use me for the mortgage, because it's about more than that for me at this point. Great if you do, but it's about more than that for me at this point, to make sure that they're getting the right resources, or at least the right person to talk to based off what they're looking to do.
So you clearly have a big heart for the military, and I think, like what you're doing is the right thing, right? Like, and it's teaching that stuff without necessarily um, expecting like reciprocation, right? And I think that's probably like the biggest value add I think that any of us in in the real estate space, whether you're doing the financing or the real estate sales, can do, which is really just to offer um, the knowledge and experience that you have, and if you help the people, the business will follow. And I see, we're both in two pretty big military markets. I'm in San Diego, you're in North Carolina. Like, there's a lot of military there, and there's a lot of real estate agents, a lot of lenders, a lot of just other companies who their sole purpose is to turn the military into transactions, right? And that's the goal for them. And I see it so often. There's even a firm here that's run by a veteran, and they just put them through a meat grinder, right? And the experience that they're having is terrible on the loan side and the real estate side, and that's about as bad as you could do for our country, right? And these people that have raised their right hand to defend it. So I applaud you for doing that, because that, in my opinion, that's the only way and the right way that it should be done. Educate them, help them. If they choose you, then it's obviously that they trust you, right? And I think that's right. What are you seeing in the market these days? I mean, it's been crazy the last couple of years with rates dipping so low. Now they've climbed so high. What's it been like for you in the markets that you serve, in the VA loan, and helping these folks get their offer accepted and get into escrow? And what have you been seeing on that side?
We don't have that problem out here, mostly because you guys have much higher purchase prices and a lot more money that people throw in your market. We don't have people that throw quite as much money in our market. So, I mean, I think the number of offers that one veteran put in and didn't get accepted, the max number I would say would probably be 5. Like, they offered on 5 houses, but got the 6th. And I have a lot of people that I know in this area. They'll CC me on the offers, and it's now to the point where when the agent CCs me on the offer, I'll reach out to the listing agent. And if I haven't already worked with them, I will do an intro and be like, listen, I don't do other loan programs. All I do is the VA loan, period. I don't take on conventionals. I refer those to a colleague. This is where my focus is getting this veteran into this home as a team effort. And for the most part, a lot of the listing agents are also retired military. So they're like, all right, I like it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm not here to lick lollipops and chit chat. I'm here to get this veteran into this house as fast as I can with as little problems as we can encounter. And by the time any client of mine is ready to go under contract, I have already looked through the file and said, is there anywhere we can punch a hole in this file on the borrower side, on the veteran side? Because the way I will normally explain it to clients, like whenever I get a veteran on the phone, and everybody's different, but my initial intake for any veteran that I'm working with or active duty is I'm going to crash course them on, this is the entire process from start to finish. I don't go over just what I need. This is what we're looking at. This is the things I'm going to ask you questions about. Once we get to this point, then this happens. And then this is the property stuff. By the time you're going under contract, the only reason this is not going to close is going to be based off of that property, period. So that they know they, as a qualified veteran, are good to go to buy a house. It's the house we're now approving. And that is something out of both of our control, so that they know this is the worst the suck is going to get. This is the absolute most suck they're going to be in, but it's not going to be them not being able to buy a house, just not that house. So, and I have that same conversation with the listing agent. Will you send me a CMA in advance? In case the appraiser misses something, I will take the CMA that you give me, how you price this home, and fight the value. As long as everybody knows, listen, I'm going to fight, but it's going to be for the benefit of your seller and my veteran getting into this home without a problem. Awesome. But I don't want to come back at the last second if the appraiser's late turning it in and fight a Tidewater. I'm going to get ahead of it the best I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a really cool tactic that you employ with being CC'd on the offers. I do the same thing. And it's funny, you probably hear this too, but a common response that I get from the listing agent when I make that phone call and try to explain to them, hey, I've got this veteran, they're super well qualified, let me tell you, blah, 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 we go into it. The response I get a lot is like, holy cow, I can't believe you called me. Like, you're a lender and you called me. Like, their mind is blown. And it's surprising to me because I feel like that's our job, right? Is to make that phone call and help get our client into escrow, because the biggest fear for that listing agent is they advise their seller to take the wrong offer that blows up in their face and doesn't make it to closing. Now they're back on the market and they got to deal with all that turmoil, right? And so like that's the biggest worry. So it surprises me that not more lenders don't call, especially being, in a market we're in now where rates are higher. So you're not out there like doing a gazillion refis, right? Like it is a purchase market as a lender.
I hate refis. I hate doing them. I hate everything about them. 2020 was the worst year of this industry for me because I absolutely hate doing refis. I hate them so much. And it's mostly because you're already in the house. It's going to take a while. And I would prefer to help somebody actually start the dream of home ownership and get there versus being in the middle of it. I'm not really in it for the money. I'm in it because I like to do the right thing, which again sounds terrible, but I like helping people that haven't had a chance to level up in life. That's what I like to do. I don't like to help people who have already leveled up necessarily. And it's not that I won't, but it's not where my heart is. I'm not happy about refis. So for rates though, going back to the rate conversation, veterans tend to be a little less sensitive towards rates, especially when several people have said no. So I'm always super brutally honest with people. Honesty is number one in my book. And I tell people, and excuse my French if you have to edit this, but I'm not Willy Wonka. I don't sugarcoat shit. I'm not here to fluff your feathers. I'm here to get you into a house. Here's where rates are. You want to buy a house? Cool, let's go. And I've had people tell me, give me a 10% rate if you're going to say yes. It's not 10%, but I'm still going to say yes because somebody else has said no. Like, your file works, not for them, but for me, this is fine. So most of them don't really care. I'm not rate sensitive. So most people kind of follow through with that. If you approach rates in a way where you're apologizing for the fact rate goes up, then you lead into somebody being able to kind of blame you for the rates. I don't control the rates though. That's the market. Here's where rates are. Take your pick of which one you want to have. Higher rate or lower rate. This is what the lower rate costs you.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point because, as a society, we're basically taught like through media, right? Through TV and social media stuff, we're taught like, get the cheapest, get the lowest price, right? Like, and that's indoctrinated into a sense we're young because it's just on repeat, right? I mean, look at the cell phone commercials on TV. Like every 30 seconds there's a new cell phone commercial. We're cheaper, right? And give you more. And so, it's sad, but you're spot on with the fact that, we don't control what that interest rate is. Might they vary from lender to lender? Yeah, a little bit. But, you're not going to find somebody that's offering a 1% interest rate and everyone else is offering 6, right? Like that type of disparity doesn't exist. It might be nominal. Someone might be at a 5 and the other person's at a 5.125 or something like that. It might be small. But ultimately we don't control that. And I think, for our audience listening out there, and this is something that I tell my clients often, who are kind of getting caught up in the interest rate thing. And I get it, right? It's shocking. We used to be in the 2s on VA loans and now we're in the 5s. Like it's overwhelming to think like just a short time ago, this payment was so much lower, but you weren't buying a house then. So it doesn't matter. Right. But, I tell them, when they're in the shopping mode and they're trying to determine who their lender is going to be, I tell everyone, I think this is great advice. Imagine every lender has the exact same interest rate and the exact same costs. Now go interview the lender and find out what it is that's intrinsic about that lender that's going to make you feel comfortable moving forward, because you're not going down to Best Buy and buying a flat screen TV. This is a house. This is a big deal. You don't buy one of these every year. You buy one every 7 to 15 years, right? And it's a big purchase. So the questions that you need to get answered aren't price, right? The questions you need to get answered are who's going to give you that level of trust and experience on the loan product that you need, in the market that you need, with the other things that are important to you, maybe their truth, right? All that stuff, how they deal with you to get you into the home, because your rate and your payment is not going to fluctuate a whole lot between lenders. And I've seen so many times where I have a client so focused on the rate that they go somewhere else and it turns into a complete dumpster fire. And then 3 weeks later, I hear back from, hey, it's a mess. Can you help me out? And okay, yeah, we'll pick up the pieces and help you now. But they chased the wrong thing, right? Instead of, the process and the people and the experience. Are you seeing stuff like that in your market?
I have had clients tell me that they would, so for states that I'm not in, we're supposed to be getting Georgia, and we had Georgia previously. And I've had clients rent apartments waiting for me instead of letting me refer them to colleagues that are licensed in Georgia. I have some very, very, very loyal clients, and I'm super grateful for every one of them, but they don't care what the rates are. They know that if we've had a conversation, especially like, and not even like super tough files. So I've had a couple of clients with scores low sixes that have been told no by several people. I've gotten approved eligible on the file, but we can't do anything until I'm licensed there. They're prepared to rent apartments. One of them did, to wait until we were up and running in the state of Georgia, because he only trusts me because we've already done a full TBD on the file. So it's a clean file, but he literally won't let me send a fully approved file to another loan officer, because he's like, no, you were the only one that took the time to make sure that I was able to get a home. So I'm not going anywhere. So I have been very, very lucky and very blessed with people that are trusting in my abilities and want to work with me. So no, I can't say I really have, like, people don't particularly rate up, but again, you're right. Rates are going to do what they're going to do. Are you using the expertise of the person to their full advantage though? Like, is the person going to be able to get you into a home? Rate's great, but if you're looking for rate and your file is complicated, or there's issues and they're not able or willing to do the work to get you closed, what does it matter whether or not the rate's an eighth lower?
Right. Exactly. Exactly my point.
That's that though. Well, and
Yeah.
I guess I have a question for you. Are your clients finding you, or are they coming to you from agents? Because that's been a problem. I'm going to be honest with you. That's been a problem for me, is getting past the hump of trying to get to know an agent that I've never spoken to before when they're coming from me to them.
I get my clients from both, that will find me directly, and then I have the opportunity to introduce them to somebody. But then also they find me through the realtor as well. So it can be interesting. Sometimes, I've had, especially with a lot of my out of state PCS moves, that, they're finding their own realtor who has their own intention with who's going to do the loan, right? And so there is a tug of war. I've seen that a few times, and the realtor will purposely shun me out and keep me in the dark. And it's like, oh hey, yeah, we just got offer accepted, so just let the client know your best rate, and we'll see if we're going to go with you. And I'm like, oh really? So that happens. That happens quite a bit on a lot of the out of state stuff, but the in state stuff, yeah, they usually find me through the real estate agent, or YouTube or Instagram or something like that.
I don't have necessarily that happen, because most of my clients, again, they come back to the very faithful, like, no, this is our lender. You guys, you talk to her. We're not shopping. But then it starts off on a very bad note, typically with the realtor, which I'm trying to figure out a solution to, because I'm not here to fight with anybody. It is a team effort, but they don't know me. And finding a lender on TikTok sounds about as sketchy and scam. This is a scam. Where is the Prince of Egypt coming in next? Like, that's the next thing that's going to happen.
Right.
So it's hard to build that level of trust without coming across aggressive, that I know what I'm doing. This is all that I do. And I promise you, by the time they're under contract, etc. But that has been my biggest downfall, is I don't know how to build a trust with those realtors that I've never worked with before. And I'm not very good at warm and fuzzies. Again, I keep to the honesty. I don't do the warm and fuzzy thing very often. Can we close in 30 days? I'm not making you the promise, because I don't control the appraiser. They don't like that. So
yeah, they have a hard time with the honesty, because they want us. They want to be able to point the finger, right? Like, if that appraiser doesn't meet their time standards, then they got to point the finger at someone, which, in my opinion, naturally is the appraiser, since they're the one that controls their own timetable. But they want to point it at us, right? So yeah, it can be a little bit of a challenge in developing that trust. One of the things that I share with them, as I'm sure you do, is like, hey, this is my area of expertise, right? Like, VA loans are almost all of my business, and so you're not going to find anybody better, except for maybe Ariel, at doing the VA. I'm not
coming to California. You keep that market. I'm good.
But I just let them know, like, you're going to be hard pressed to find anybody that's going to be able to perform this loan any better. And then I explain to them, here's the service that I'm going to provide to you, right, as the realtor. So here's what you're going to get with me. And I walk through, like, I have a protocol for the communication and what they can expect, how often they can expect it, right? And, most realtors' experience with lenders is a zero communication game. So if I can give them a roadmap as to here's how I'm going to communicate, how often, everything else, that helps a ton with a lot of that credibility. And I'll also send them, like, videos, like, check out my YouTube page, check out my social media accounts, like, vet me out, right? Like, I know we don't know each other yet, but a lot of people do, and a lot of people trust me, and you can too, right? And so here's some evidence of that. So that's one of the things that I do to help try and bridge that gap. And I think, just kind of taking that explanatory kind of educational approach with them as well has helped in, establishing that trust and everything. And it's been great because a lot of them be like, okay, like you can tell there's some hesitancy. I don't really know you, but my client likes you. So, okay. And then you get halfway through the deal and they're like, you're actually pretty awesome. I like this, So it's just a couple weeks where it's a little tense. And then you get through kind of that courtship. And now you're like, all right, we're in relationship now. This is good. Right. And then I find, a lot of them will start working with me after the fact too, and in referring business, because they're like, oh, okay, well, I don't have like a VA guy. So you're definitely getting all my VAs. And I'm like, sweet. I don't want your $15 million celebrity house person, because that's not my jam.
I don't have the bandwidth at this point. I'm with you. I don't have the bandwidth to take on other loan types. I haven't cracked the conventional or FHA handbooks in probably 2 solid years. So whenever I get those clients, listen, I am not the expert you need. And then I will send them to the expert that they need. But I haven't looked at any of those loan programs or any of the updates in the past 2 years because I haven't really had to. But I also don't jive necessarily that great with those clients. When I tell somebody that I'm brutally honest, I'm not kidding. Hey, if we have an appraisal delay, listen, remember the suck I told you about? This is the only possible bad thing that can happen. We're there. But they know it's coming. That tends to go over a lot better, I have found, with active duty and veterans, because they know what the possible suck is. And they know I've already warned them this is the worst it's going to get. And they're prepared for it, and they tend to handle it a little bit better. For people that are not used to or don't know what the suck is, who have never been in the military or been para to the military, because now I know a lot about it. The suck is like the being in the field or being deployed and you're in the absolute worst of a situation or sleeping in a foxhole, that kind of thing. A lot of people are not prepared for that haven't actually been there before, and they tend to get very frustrated and angry for something they know could happen. Well, you already knew it could happen, so I don't know that you really get the right to be mad about something you knew could be a possibility.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways,
what's a funny VA loan story you have?
I have had so many guys wind up wheels up. I've told them, hey, don't forget the power of attorney. And then I find out they're wheels up, and I was like, what about that power of attorney? And it's funny now because I've had 3 different guys wind up getting wheels up to a base overseas. I won't tell where, but they got wheels up to a base overseas, and I happen to know the NCOIC over there. And I just pretty much at this point warned him now, because I did his mortgage too. And I warned him, and I was like, yeah, I need him to go to JAG the minute he lands. And he will catch them getting off the plane and escort them to JAG to complete the POA.
They probably think they're in trouble.
They do. They really do. Because he laughs about it. He thinks it's hysterical. And he's like, well, this is hysterical. I'm going to torture them. So he will lead them to JAG and make them get a POA and then get it over to me, which is really funny now that that's happening, because it's kind of nice being like, all right, you didn't do what I said. Now you have to do. So that is something that's happened 2 or 3 times in the past couple of months. I think the funny thing is when people will ask me a question on TikTok about, can I finance a house that's like this? So I had one veteran reach out to me. He wanted to buy a property with 17 stalls for horse boarding because he had like a history of being a rancher. I got the VA to okay us using the rental boarding income from like 11 of the 17 stalls for him to qualify for that house. That was weird. And then I had another one, the 3D printed cement homes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So somebody on TikTok had asked me about that, and I sent that to one of my contacts at the VA, and I got the email back. It just said, Jesus, Ariel, where do you come up with this stuff? Yes, you can do that. And TikTok just now like finds these weird houses for me to get the VA to okay. And it's hysterical because he'll be like, where do they find these properties? Why are we doing this? Yes, you can do that house. I had one, it was a converted bunker, converted silo. Geez, what are some of the other weird ones? Houseboats are a no. The VA said no, houseboats don't count. So it's been funny because some of the questions they'll ask me about, can we do this or can we use this? And the VA just goes, they've got some really imaginative things. Trying to think of, I have one and it's hysterical. So he's a major and he had been told no by another bank. And then he calls me and he's like, yeah, you didn't answer my phone call on Sunday. I said, yeah, that was Mother's Day. This was a couple of weeks ago. He goes, I said, that was Mother's Day and I happen to be a mom. What can I help you with? This was Monday. And he said, well, the other bank told me no, so I don't even know if I should apply. And I said, what's your credit score? Why'd they say no? And he said, because I have a 6'11" and a skinny credit profile. And I said, that's not a thing. And it's funny because he's a major and he texts me at, like whenever we're doing updates now, he's under contract and he'll be like, what's up, homie? And I'm just like, it's really funny when a major is calling me homie.
Yeah, right.
funny getting to see the other side of their military personality, or the other side of their personality past their rank, because they are all really nice and genuine people. But it's hysterical because sometimes they'll refer their enlisted folks to me, and then he'll be like, don't let him mess anything up. Or I'll make a joke and say, hey, just don't let him go finance a car. And he goes, no girlfriend's named Candy or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. Nope. No marriages prior to closing. Thank you.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah. And they're mostly just really good natured in the fact that I can joke around with them and be very honest and I'm in my pajama pants during this call. Sorry. I'm a very down to earth and very real person. So I like to be able to joke with them and be honest and be a real person with them versus having to mask and put a business front on. So
yeah. So I got a funny story that I'll tell you. So a realtor calls me up who, leans on me for VA stuff, right? And he starts telling me about this really awesome listing that he has. It's in Temecula, which is inland from the coast here in San Diego. It's inland of Camp Pendleton. And he's like telling me about this cool house. It's up on a hill, and he goes into all the cool features. And I'm like, okay, where's the VA question here, And he goes, so we're in escrow, got a buyer, and he's using a VA loan. And the lender emails me, and he says, hey, we've got Tidewater. He goes, what do you mean Tidewater? He's like, A, we're not even close to the ocean. And B, we're way up on a hill. Like, how in the world can we have water coming into this house? What kind of inspection did you guys do? And I about fell over. I was laughing so hard. And I'm like, dude, do you know that's not what Tidewater means? He's like, well, by the tone in your voice, I'm getting it has nothing to do with water. I'm like, you're right.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
That's one of my favorite stories. Then, of course, I explained it to him. For those who are listening and have no idea what we're talking about, so in the VA loan process, when an appraiser goes out to the house and they do their inspection and they're back at their desk trying to figure out if this thing is going to reach the purchase price value or not, if they're not coming up with a conclusion that's going to meet purchase price and they're struggling to get the value, then what they will do is implement what's called Tidewater. And so Tidewater basically is a notice that goes out to both parties, buy side and listing side agents, and it gives them a window of time to help basically get that appraiser some additional info to get the value up. And they can send comps or a little narrative or whatever to help get the value to contract price. That's what Tidewater is. It's an opportunity there. And so anyways, yeah, probably my favorite use of the VA loan, I've been doing a lot of them lately, are the multifamily home purchases, right? And I think this is really one of the coolest ways and the smartest ways to leverage the VA loan, especially for those that have a little bit of that investor mindset or they're interested in like creating some real estate investment. I think it's a total home run, right? Since they removed the loan limit off the VA loans, especially in high price markets like mine, now it makes multifamily a real possibility. Like in the past, the down payment was the big hurdle. But now that down payment's removed. So as long as we can make the math work to get them in, I tell them it's like skipping 10 years ahead of the average civilian in building a real estate portfolio, right? Because the average person has to go buy a house, maybe do like a 3% down conventional loan or something, live in it for a year, save, then go buy another property, right? And then they got to start doing a leapfrog, sell this one to buy a bigger one and gain equity. And it takes a long time, right? It take 10, 15 years to get to the point where you have the down payment funds, the reserves, and all the rest of it to buy a multifamily property if you're just going kind of the natural way, right? With the VA loan, you get to skip kind of the head of the line. So we've been doing a lot of those lately. And one of my favorite examples is we did one for an E5, got new recruiting duty up by Edwards Air Force Base. He's a Army sergeant, and he had that bug. So he had been looking online and he found this 4-unit that he thought would be perfect. But he wasn't pre-approved yet. And the house went under contract right away. And this was like 2020. And so it went under contract really quick. He was totally bummed out. And he's like, okay, I guess I really need to get that pre-approval done if I want to jump on something because they're going quick. And I was like, yep. So we do the whole pre-approval thing. A couple of weeks go by, and that same home came back on the market. So financing fell apart with the original buyer. So he's super excited. He's like, I want to make an offer on it. It was listed for $880,000. We went in, made a $900,000 offer, asked for $20,000 back in seller concessions. And this is kind of in a time also, you got to remember, during the pandemic when getting seller concessions was like almost a 4-letter word. Like there was no way you're getting that for a period of time. And, but we got it and got him into that place, went super smooth. And, but the math on that is what was so impressive. So the 3 units that are the tenant occupied units, the rentals, they cover his mortgage completely. So now his BAH is savings. And so I had a conversation with them. I said, hey, look, you need to live off your E5 pay. That's, cable, the movies, going out to dinner, all that stuff is your E5 pay. And I said, don't touch your BAH. Put it all away. Save it all. Because when it's time to move out of this property, you'll have another $1,200 a month in income. So when he moves out, he'll be plus positive cash flow, $1,200 a month on that house. And then he can go use that and he'll have down payment to get the next place and get the next place. So here you have an E5 who bought almost $1 million property and he's able to bank all of his BAH. It's a total home run. And we see that more and more and more these days. So that's been one of my favorite things to start talking to people about, because the multifamily route has been really, really great for them.
I do love a good multifamily. We do a lot of those down here in Charleston. And I think my favorite thing to tell people is, especially whenever I have anybody that's concerned with the VA appraisal, because that update in 2019, and I think a lot of industry professionals missed the massive updates we had to the VA home loan program in 2019 because we headed straight into a pandemic.
Right.
So I'm screaming from the rooftops over here, no loan limits, easier underwriting, easier appraisal passing, because they changed those things in 2019 and everybody missed that information because the pandemic just came in and took precedent, which obviously, but at the same time, no loan limits on VA loans. It's like the Black American Express card. You don't have a limit unless you use it. Then they put a limit on it for a little bit till you pay it off. Then no limit again. That's how the VA loan works. It's awesome. So you can buy a $2.5 million multi-unit property in downtown Charleston, and the appraiser is going to defer to county requirements for code and zoning. And we had a house built in 1864, 4-unit, appraised above value, no repairs needed. So whenever people are like, it's not going to appraise with the VA or it's going to call repairs, let's let the VA decide that, because I guarantee you it is not the same as it used to be. So that's one of my favorite things to remind people, is that they did update the handbook. Here is the updates. Here's the circulars that we get on a routine basis. They are doing everything they can to make it easier for a veteran to use the benefit. Is the house priced appropriately? I feel like it takes a lot of the onus off of people blaming the VA and puts it back into kind of ethical work. Like, is the house priced appropriately? Are the repairs, is the house up to code to be able to sell it? Because the VA uses county code and permit requirements. So
Right.
It makes it a lot easier to say, okay, we can all take accountability and own the parts of our job to get the job done for this veteran that we need to, without finger pointing. I'm not a fan of the finger pointing.
Yeah. Same here. One other thing I was going to ask you. So what's your fastest VA purchase that you've done?
7 days.
That's wicked fast. Tell us the recipe that made up that cake batter.
Coffee, anxiety, and not sleeping. No, I'm kidding. It was a rescue deal, unfortunately, and it was the dumbest rescue I have ever done in my entire life. I'll be honest with you, and I'm not going to name the bank, but it was a builder and a veteran buying a new build, and the builder refused to tell what the value was without having the VA mandatory clause signed. And for those of you that aren't in real estate, every contract in almost every single state has what's called the VA mandatory clause, and it allows the veteran to get out of the contract if the house doesn't appraise. Doesn't mean they may get all their money back, but it allows them to get out of the contract if it doesn't appraise and an agreement can't be met. The bank refused to tell the builder what it appraised at without them signing, and the builder refused to sign it without knowing what the value was. So they wound up in a stalemate, and the lender, the actual loan officer, said, I don't really even care if you want to step in and take over. So I called the builder, and it was just a matter of pushing it through and disclosing it, because the veteran had great credit, had a great job, like it was a clean file, and all they wanted to know what the value was before they signed it. And I said, if I verbally tell you what this appraisal says, will you sign that addendum? And they said, sure. Okay, fine. This is what it appraised at. Cool.
Oh my
Sign.
gosh.
They're not all like that, but that was the fastest. That was a very easy file. For a non-super clean file, I think the fastest I've ever closed, and that one had the appraisal done. For one that has not had the appraisal done, the fastest I've ever closed a VA loan without an appraisal. This one had a Tidewater too. 2 weeks with a Tidewater from start to finish.
That's fast. That's really fast. Yeah, Tidewater, because that adds a couple of days in there. Plus, you never know how long the appraiser's really deliberating at his desk before he initiates Tidewater, right? Could be a day or two.
The bulk of the delays, we would have had 10 days on that, but the Tidewater added 3 days.
Yeah. So I actually had a 10-day. I had a 10-day purchase. It was just pre-pandemic, and a client was buying a home that was recently flipped by a well-known like big flipping company that does a good work, right? Some of them do shoddy work, right? And so you have issues, but they did a really good job. So we had 0 issues with the home. No home inspection issues, no termite issues. Appraisal was clean, and the appraiser was fast, which helped a lot in this instance. And then the other key ingredient was the escrow company was super fast. I know North Carolina, you guys have closing attorneys, but they were super fast, which also helped a ton. And the other thing that was really important is our client, who was an active duty Marine, was like lightning whenever we needed something. And he had all of his files and things like stored on like his Google Drives or whatever, or he was able to access them, save them as a PDF and email them. So anytime we needed something within, I would say 2 hours, we had what we needed from the client. Everything else went super smooth. So what was interesting is we got our conditional loan approval. It was really light. There was only a couple updated things we needed from the client. So we emailed it to him. Within 2 hours, we had all of the conditions in and had resubmitted the file for final underwriting approval. And I get a call from the underwriter. And underwriter's like, hey, Jason, I just got this file resubmitted back to me. I just approved it this morning. She's like, I just want to make sure there wasn't a mistake or something like that. I'm like, no, it's ready to go. She's like, you're kidding, right? And I was like, no, we got everything in there. We're ready for our final approval. She says, well, I've never had anybody turn in that fast, so I'm going to not work on the file I was just about to start, and I'm going to finish your file for you. And I was like, beautiful. So she gets in there, clears it, and we're ready to close. The kicker on this whole thing is the contract had a per diem clause in there because obviously they've had some experience with lenders closing late for them. So they added this per diem clause. It was $100 per day for every day after the close of escrow date that the borrower would have to pay as like a penalty fee if things went too slow. But it worked in the opposite direction as well. If you closed early, then you got $100 per day credit. Well, they had already negotiated a little bit of seller credit in this deal out of the gate. It was a 30-day escrow. We closed it in 10 days. So he got an additional $2,000 out of the seller because we closed so fast. And I got another surprise phone call. The listing agent called me. And most agents would be super thrilled that you close quick. But this agent was a little perturbed because she got heat from her boss at the flipping company because it cost him an extra $2,000 because we went too fast. So it was pretty funny, but that was the magic recipe, right? Was just everyone being fast. And but it really takes all the parties, right? It takes everybody, because one person going super duper slow in any one of those categories changes the dynamic of the whole thing.
Exchange midstream is always super difficult, but that's why I'm a big fan of that's why I'm a big fan of the brutal honesty. That always circles back to, I will tell you, hey, this is what's happening, this is how long I need to fix it. So that's my biggest thing, is this is what's happening, this is how long I need to fix it, we'll get it done.
Yep. Thanks for carving out a little time for us to be on the show and talk about some VA loans and all the great stuff that you're doing. Where can people follow you online? What's your TikTok handle?
That one damn ginger, spelled out exactly as it sounds. I know it sounds terrible, but it's catchy. So
ginger. Hey, it works. It works. And this is a really special episode for us because we got the VA loan guy, we got the VA loan lady talking about VA loans and how we serve and help the military with the dream of home ownership, building wealth through real estate. And I know Ariel does an amazing job with all of that. So Ariel, thanks again. Really appreciate having you on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and talk to you soon. I appreciate you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks so much for checking out this week's episode. Please subscribe, click the link below, share with your friends. And hey, if you know a military person or a veteran with a great story to share, we would love to highlight them on the podcast and get their story out to everybody. Thanks so much.